welcome back to RC Model Reviews. This has come in the mail. And if you want to send stuff in for review, or you want me to show stuff, if you've got a product you want the world to see, I'm happy to showcase it and then review it if you want. And that's the address. There you go. By mail or by DHL. DHL will deliver to this address. Other international couriers won't, but DHL will in New Zealand, and so will the mail service. So that's it. So what's in here? What have we got in the bag? Drum roll, please. It's from Runcam. Wouldn't you know it from Runcam? Another product from Runcam. They're doing a lot of product. Oh, the plastic case is broken. Never mind. It withstood a travel all the way from China, but the hinge on the plastic container broke. Never mind. Still good. Let's undo it. Let's see what's in there. Screws. Everybody loves screws. And there's a camera. And this is the Runcam Nano, I think it is. Racer Nano. I'm not sure. What does it say in here? Born for RC fanatics. Here we go. Writing's on the bottom. It says it is the Racer Nano. And it is a 1.8mm lens, it's 160-degree field of view. It says Race Band Nano. Okay, Racer Nano. There you go. Yeah, anyway. Might cut that out because I didn't know what I was talking about. There it is. Wow. Hang on, I'll have to get a macro for this one. This is a really small camera. Honestly, this is like, well, here's my hand. Look at the size of that damn thing. Super small, and I'm happy about that. I love that because, as you've seen on my XJet channel and a few other things, I think the future of this hobby, well, the easy future, is going to be in sub 250. Sub 250 is where we're at because it gets rid of that need to register. And if you're in Canada, you can even ignore the rules. But not safety, not common sense. There you go. So look at the tiny thing. Let's take the lens cap off and see whether they've actually given us a lens as well. They have. Look at that. Woo! Now, that is really small. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to whack onto the 200 milliwatt video transmitter that they make, which screws straight on the back of the Swift Micro. But this is a Nano. Now, I don't know if the scale will even register this. How much does it weigh? Ding, 3 grams. 4 grams. So that's probably around 4 grams, somewhere between 3 and 4, most likely 4. What does it say? I don't have a spec sheet. Cameras don't come with anything these days, just a little plastic box with a broken hinge. You don't get an instruction leaflet or anything like that. You've got to go online, which is probably a good idea because, you know, new revisions, they can keep the instructions up to date. But I'm lazy. It'd be nice if I had a piece of paper, but then they couldn't give it to you in this tiny little box, could they? Right, it's got several connectors on here. What have we got? We've got a... Okay, we've got a converter. That's actually a converter, I think, is it? I'm not sure. No, that's... Okay, we've got some little... Yeah, I don't have any matching connectors for those. Why have they given us these? Why don't they give us something sensible that we can use? Or just bare wires. But you can always cut those off and put your own connectors on there. So, not a big deal. And as I say, I might just totally change the wiring on this because I'm... not going there. So, there we go. I'm going to use this in a sub 250 build, and we'll see how it goes. I guess it's designed really for replacing the cameras in things like this, the Wi-Fi 150, but it's already got a pretty small camera. Let's compare that. This is a Foxeer that's in here now. It is actually probably, well, the optics look a bit bigger, which has got to be good. It's got to be good to have bigger lenses and things. And the camera itself is actually quite a bit smaller. If you look here, if we look at the cross-section, the Foxeer just fits in between these two members, but this has got like, oh, that's only like 2/3 the width. So it is a lot smaller. So maybe not these as much as the super little micros, the tiny whoops, the little, you know, ultra little micros, or super light, well, I thought it had gone up in weight for a moment, super light fixed wings, which is what I'm going to be doing a few more projects on. And I'm actually, if this works, I'll use it in the long range FPV because it is a CMOS, so you can expect to get some pretty stunning quality out of this, but we'll check that out. And because these days CMOS are better than CCD in terms of the dynamic range and so forth. We'll check out, but in a moment we'll check out the latency and the quality of the image. Okay, I've had to use my macro lens here because this is so small that you can't see it otherwise. And here we go, look, they've got some silicon support. That's kind of nice, some liquid tape or something around there to support those wires. And the reason I think that's quite nice is because on the other camera they sent me, because there is a silver option and a black option, this is obviously a pre-production unit because look at that. That's pretty tragic, isn't it? There's no protection at all for those wires, so they would break them over time with vibration, and also the soldering's pretty damn dodgy. The soldering may be dodgy in that we can't see it, but at least it does have some insulation on there, some protection, some support for the wires, which is great. But neither of these cameras came with any mounting hardware, so that's going to make it a little bit harder for me to... I just hot glue them. I hot glue them in. Yeah, that's what you do with small cameras, isn't it? Hot glue. Okay, to test this camera, I put it on my Outlaw 250, mounted it right beside the Runcam Swift Micro, whatever. There you can see. And so what I'm going to show you now is some of the setups. Quite a configurable camera. I like the fact. And this is 16:4 versus 4:3. Now what I've done here is, this is what you see in your goggles. Notice how the change of aspect ratio actually does increase the field of view. That's brilliant. And just to show you what it looks like if we were to put it on the goggles, there you go. 4:3 and 16:9. So you can see the difference in the ratios. Now notice there are a few jaggies here. On the hanger there, you can see a bit of moire effect, and it's not so bad now because I've wound down some of the presets. I'll show you on the screen here. I've wound down the sharpness, and I've also changed the color hue a bit, and I wound down the color gain. All these are preset to much higher, figure about 125 or something. So I've just wound them down, and I'm playing now with the hue to show you that you can change the tint of the picture quite dramatically with the controls provided. And I don't like a bright colored picture. I like something more realistic. So what I've been doing here is playing around with the white balance to get a nice set white balance. I like to set my white balance because auto white balance wanders like hell on virtually all cameras. And this one, I've just set it to, I was setting it to what I thought was nice. But you see a huge range of control here, which is great. And so I've set it in the video that follows to pretty much what the real scene looks like. It was slightly different in my goggles, but I've just put it up here as I set the camera up for my goggles. Really quite straightforward, very simple. And you also has an image flip operation. But now this picture here, this footage here is straight out of the box. I hadn't changed anything. So you notice the colors look like an explosion in a paint factory because the color is much higher than I like it. So you got all this bright fluorescent greens, and the front of the plane's almost fluorescent orange, and the sky's brilliant blue. Yeah, it's not the way I like my colors set up. So I'll show you a bit of this footage, and then we'll switch to the footage with my personalized settings. This is 4:3, by the way. You can see 4:3 aspect ratio there. I set it to 16:9. I wound the color down. I changed the white balance to better reflect the actual color of the day. This is an autumn day, so the sun is quite low in the sky, and you can see how well this thing handles the wide dynamic range. Look at this. The sun is just a white dot. It doesn't cause the rest of the scene to darken. In fact, one thing I noticed was it actually causes a bit of light flare. Notice how light the ground is here when we're looking straight into the sun. And note when I turn to face away from the sun, the actual contrast and the colors increase somewhat. Notice how we turn around here, the sky is getting bluer and the grass is greener. Now, apart from a bit of multipathing off the hangers there, sorry about that. But you notice how the colours are a bit more vivid now and the contrast is a bit high. Also look in the corner, some vignetting. See the little dark areas in the corners? On 16:9 you do get some vignetting. It's not irritating, it's not a distraction, but it is there. Now I'm going back into the sun again. The sky's gone a paler shade of blue, and the grass is kind of this an underlying sort of glow. And I think what's happening here is that the light is bouncing around inside the camera, and so you're getting a lot of reflections, which basically provides a diffuse glow when you've got a bright light source like the sun. Again, turn around, the picture improves vastly because we've got the much bluer sky and the green grass. That's the way I set my white balance up to look like that. But with the sun in full shot, you do lose a lot of that colour and contrast. Can't be helped. It's kind of the opposite of your CCD cameras, where they tend to go a bit darker when you've got the sun in shot. These CMOS goes a bit lighter. And as I say, I've wound the colour down. Most CMOS cameras do give you a somewhat more pastel view, that the colours are more muted. And I really like the way this looks. It does look a lot better than the first footage with the really high colour gains and so forth. But you'll see here that I was flying my Outlaw 250. It was a windy day, as you saw at the beginning of this review. And this camera in 16:9, I felt really confident flying very, very close to the ground. I normally fly pretty low anyway, but I'm flying at knee height here. You'll see when I go past myself. It's pretty much knee height. And turns at this height, no problem, because that wide field of view really does make it easy to see how close your wingtip is to the ground, and it gives you confidence to do stuff you might not have done with a standard 4:3 camera. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. So what we'll do now is look at some of the pros and cons. While you're watching this wonderful piece of flying, let's go through the pros and cons of this little camera. Well, first of all, it's small, it's tiny, and it's very, very light. It's probably, I think it's probably the smallest real camera. There's some really cheap, nasty ones, CMOS cameras, which old school CMOS, which look really bad. This is the first really usable camera that's way down here at the 3 to 4 gram level, which is great for our smaller, newer models. It's also robust. The construction looks very good. Unlike, people complained about the Swift Micro and the Sparrow Micro, whatever, because they would break in a crash. This is designed quite a bit differently, and I think it's going to be a lot more robust. It's also very low latency. Very low latency. I couldn't detect any latency. So for a CMOS, that's absolutely brilliant. Those days of laggy CMOS seem to be well behind us now. And as I say, it's wide angle, 1.8mm lens, which means you can see, quite a way out the sides, which for mini quads and even for low level proximity like this, see, you can see how high you are, see the grass right there in the corner. That's really, really important to have a wide field of view. Also, it's very configurable. You can change the field of view with the 16.9 or 4.3. You can change from PAL to NTSC. You can all those picture preset adjustments to get that picture dialed in exactly the way you want it. And so it's really a configurable little camera. And from that perspective, I really like it. But like everything, there are some downsides. What's wrong with the camera? Well, these aren't necessarily things wrong with it, but it is a 5-volt only camera. You'll have to power this through a BEC. You can't just plug it across your LiPo or smoke will come out. Now, there is a pilot display. You can put one word along the bottom of the screen on the OSD if you want to, but there's no voltage OSD. It's probably not a criticism really in a camera this small, and you're probably going to be having an OSD or something, so you may not need the voltage display, but there isn't one if you do want one. Now, the wiring has those little connectors. I'd like to have seen mating connectors so I could easily make it plug and play into my models, because I don't have any of those connectors laying around, and what would it cost them just to put the mating version of that connector in the box? It would have been really nice to have it. Another negative is that vignetting. You can see here in the corners, it's darker than in the center because you've got that lens is really working hard to fill the sensor. I noticed until I turned the smoothness down, there were some jaggies on diagonals like the original Eagle, but you can filter those out with the softness setting or the sharpness setting. And as I say, it's got that ballooning out in the bright light, which is, it's not a deal breaker, but it is an interesting effect. The ones I got had no mounting hardware, so you have to make your own up or use the hot glue stick. And that's really about the only thing I can think. So in summary, this is, if you're building really small models, if you're going with the sub 250, which a lot of us are going to have to, it is a brilliant camera for that kind of application. It is quite a bit smaller than the previous small cameras, which were the micros. It's more robustly designed. It's going to be easy to put just about anywhere, and for a camera of its size, it does perform really, really well. Hard to criticize the performance when you're looking at something so small and so light. So, yeah, I'd say it's another good product from Runcam. I'll do a follow-up video, just let you know how it's going after a few weeks. But if you want to build small, you want to build light, and you still want to get a good picture, you could do a lot worse. I did compare it directly to my Swift Micro, and I think in overall picture quality, the Swift Micro might have the edge. It might have the edge, but it's a lot heavier. And if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably go for the Nano because it's just more flexible due to its smaller size. There you go, folks. Another video from RC Model Reviews. Thanks for watching. If you like it, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. And stay tuned. More to come. Bye for now.